Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about this Steam machine. So we'll get into a little bit on what Valve has recently said about the Steam machine, but right now, like many hardware manufacturers, you're kind of in limbo, and it's a really bad time to be launching anything new. Now brought into the mix of a little bit of a rock and a hard place position is the Steam Deck. What we recently learned is that if you go to Valve's Steam Deck page where you go to buy a Steam Deck, you'll see here that you have your OLED model, your LCD model. And what they said here is that the LCD model is no longer in production, and once sold out, will no longer be available, right? That was what it was originally said here. But what we noticed was that the OLED 512 gigabyte model and the 1 terabyte model were out of stock here. Everyone had bought them up. There were no more left. And so a lot of speculation started to fly around on what happened to the Steam Deck. I think our worst suspicions were the ones that cropped up immediately, like, oh God, part shortage. Now prices are going to go up. We have the statement here from Valve, which was updated yesterday on their store page. And they say here, the Steam Deck OLED may be out of stock intermittently in some regions due to memory and storage shortages. This is not a Valve problem. This is just a global problem. And a lot of companies are facing this problem. And Valve talked about as much very recently. As we already covered, the Steam hardware launch timing and frequently asked questions blog post here. And for those who don't remember, what they said was, when we announced these products in November, we plan to be able to share specific pricing and launch dates by now, but the memory and storage shortages you've likely heard about across the industry have rapidly increased since then. The limited availability and growing prices of these critical components mean we must revisit our exact shipping schedule and pricing, especially around Steam Machine and the Steam Frame. Our goal of shipping all three products is in the first half of the year has not changed, but we have work to do to land on concrete pricing and launch dates that we can confidently announce, being mindful of how quickly the circumstances around both of those can change. We'll keep you up to date as much as we can as we finalize those plans. So when you see something like that, you're like, oh God, Valve got gobbled up by the AI data center beast like every other part manufacturer. And now you also have the Steam Deck, which was a great alternative out of stock here. I'll tell you right now, as someone who does a lot of game collecting, scarcity drives prices high, and even artificial scarcity drives prices high. So what you'll notice, no doubt, in a couple of days' time is eBay prices for your Steam Deck OLEDs are going to go through the roof because now they're the only place you can get them. And this is a problem with the retro gaming market in general. Just on a separate note, is there's a lot of what I call vibe pricing. In this case, it might make a little bit more sense, but a lot of vibe pricing is what I call it. It happens in the retro game market. I use Piglet's, I think it's called Piglet's Big Adventure as an example. There was this Piglet game that went viral, and it was Silent Hill coded. It's hilarious. It's a really stupid, fun kids game. I enjoyed it. I did a full playthrough of it for Retro Rebound. It's a 4-hour game, no biggie. But anyway, this game became so high in demand because of its virality that suddenly it was like a $300 PS or a GameCube game. And then eventually it dropped down in price because everyone was like, oh, this is the vibe. This is the wave. This is in demand now. So all the prices multiply by 10. It was stupid. This game used to be like $30 tops. And now it's still a little bit more expensive, but at least a price that you can stomach. So no doubt when I see things like this happening, oh yeah, those Steam Decks are going to go up, which is unfortunate because I think with the Steam Machine, we're already expecting it to be higher in a price than our worst expectations, although I hope Valve surprises us. You're kind of losing the cheaper alternative potentially, because I think what is inbound is if Valve's already saying here again, hey, memory and storage shortages across the industry have rapidly increased, and there's limited availability and the growing prices, and we must visit our shipping schedule and pricing. I think that also applies now to the Steam Deck. And if you look at like even on Amazon or something, SSD prices are insane. I actually didn't realize this until Spawnwave covered this topic as well, and he did a great video on it. And I didn't realize how high like a 1 terabyte SSD goes for now, like upwards of $300. So these hardware prices are going up. And so these manufacturers are looking at their prices going, we can't keep selling for a loss at this much here until we produce more stock. So the Steam Deck is still something in demand. The Steam Machine will still be something in demand. And I imagine what happens is once the Steam Machine gets cleared out because of its hype, there's likely a short supply of them. People are looking to get into Valve's ecosystem. And imagine if they throw Half-Life 3 on this thing. I think, again, the Steam stuff will go out of stock quickly, like it did kind of with the Xbox Ally even. It'll go out of stock quickly. And now you've got yourself the situation where the prices all around it are going to be really high. So we're now in this weird era where if you are early adopting, you're benefiting from this. There's a really hilarious example. Again, shout out to Spawn Wave because I did not see this or know about this, but we're now seeing early bird pricing for some of the most insane hardware pricing I've ever seen. This is from PC Mag. It says Ioneo's new handheld has eye-popping price thanks to memory shortage. And to their credit, they were very transparent about the pricing and whatnot here. You can see here with the Ioneo Next 2 for their pricing and specs here, the base model with 32 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte of memory will retail for $17.99 for the early bird price here in blue, or $2,000. Okay, I can stomach that a little bit, but I'm sure your eyes already jumped to the other price tag that was right above it. If you want 128 gigabytes of RAM and 2 terabytes of memory, like if you for some reason feel like you need this much for your handheld computer, this is a $3,500 device at the early bird price. It is also a $4,300 device if you want to buy it for retail. That's where we're at now. We're starting to get the early bird pricing. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see more tier-based pricing to like clear out stock and more strategizing on that level. But anyway, in a live stream, Ioneo CEO Arthur Zhang blamed the pricing on the ongoing memory shortage caused by tech companies hogging chip supplies for their data centers. He says, finally, let's get the pricing and cry for a moment. Man, this is too hard. To be honest, I originally didn't want to sell it, Zhang said in comments translated from Chinese. He noted that prices went up as the company was developing the Next 2 and the Ioneo won't make a profit from these prices. So again, look at these prices. I know the parts are like more powerful, stronger, I know, but they're not making profits for like a $4,300 device. That's insane to think about. Continuing on here, storage vendors are killing us. He added later, the memory shortage has already caused price hikes for PC graphics cards, RAM, SSDs, and other components. And so, yeah, that's what led them to the early bird pricing here. So we're seeing this affect everyone, and some outlandish prices are coming up, and there's early bird specials that are still kind of outlandish. So I fear that Steam Deck will run into this problem. So your alternative to the Steam machine, outside of building a computer, of course, which is now more expensive than ever, is going to be even more pricey, I feel. And if that wasn't enough, we talked about this on the Mr. Matty Plays channel. What you'll see here is that Sony is considering holding back the PlayStation 6 until 28 or 29. This was thanks to a Bloomberg report. This was also first reported by Insider Gaming here. They say in an article about the ongoing surge in memory prices, Bloomberg says the upcoming bottleneck of memory production is causing huge ramifications across the tech industry, dubbing it Ramageddon. God, I can't wait till this is over. The article asked numerous tech analysts on their views of the ongoing increase of RAM prices, a surge mainly attributed to AI data centers buying up huge quantities of it, making supply scarce. Noting that Apple, Tesla, and at least other dozen major corporations have warned that the shortage of memories will constrain production in the future, the article claims that Sony and Nintendo are planning to act accordingly. Citing sources familiar with Sony's strategic thinking, the article claims that Sony Group Corp is now considering pushing back its debut of its next PlayStation console, the PlayStation 6, to 2028 or 29. It also claims that Nintendo is considering raising the price of Switch 2 later this year. Neither Sony nor Nintendo responded to requests for comment on Bloomberg's article. I think the warning flag is this, right? If Nintendo is internally wavering at all, I find that concerning because Nintendo, their whole business is this. It's not like Sony where you've got your speakers, your screens, you got some other stuff, right? Nintendo is a video game company. And they know their software makes a killing, and they know the importance of just getting as much hardware into as many people's hands as possible. And the Switch 2 is selling incredibly well. So I don't think they're concerned like, whoa, this is, like, will this slow down? It won't, but it can if they change the price. If Nintendo is bucking at this, then I feel like you look at everyone else and go, they're all going to buck. Xbox will buck. PlayStation will buck. Valve will buck. And again, this goes back to the Steam machine situation here, where when I read what we did earlier on what they're planning to do with shipping schedule and pricing, and now you see the Steam Deck is out of stock because of the memory and storage shortages, it's worrying, man, that now there's like alternatives being eliminated. I know, in fairness, Steam Deck's been around for a while. You've had opportunities to pick it up. LCD models are on eBay, so there are alternatives. But I do worry about what this scarcity will do to the pricing of the Steam machine, because also is Valve as a company that's not so heavy into hardware, like they don't want the Steam machine to be this device that replaces something in your living room. It's for their fans, right? Do they have to pick and choose now? Like, do we take our production of Steam Deck offline for a little bit because we've already got max output? We're not getting millions of more people in there. Maybe hundreds, thousands, like low thousands, but nothing crazy. I don't know what their sales are. Are they thinking like that and saying, let's devote our resources instead to the Steam machine? Even more so, that becomes a problem because, again, it does create some level of scarcity for an alternative option. Yeah, what we've got here is a situation that's very familiar. Prices are out of control. Fuck AI. It's a pain in the ass, and it's kind of destabilizing the hardware industry. At least what you can say with next generation gaming, like when I look at what PlayStation's doing here and Nintendo's doing here, Nintendo's unfortunate. PlayStation, I'm like, good. I don't think we need next gen right now. I don't think I'm ready for next gen. I'm not looking for next gen until you guys can put something in front of me that is not possible with what we currently have. I'm not just talking 8K gaming, like more, something with the video games themselves. You remember Sony sold us on the SSD, and it wasn't really until maybe Spider-Man 2 that you kind of felt it a little bit. I mean, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart tried to sell you on that, but we need them to sell us something that's actually like moving gaming forward that we can't do right now. So we'll see what that ends up being, but that's where the Steam machine lies right now, and it's a little bit concerning, and it's not Valve's fault. I don't blame them. It's just really unfortunate because it just feels like their plans are so exciting, and they are just launching at the worst time, where I wonder if this ever gets delayed out of the first half, if it becomes kind of this unfeasible thing, because like, is this launching in April, May? Are they going to push it all the way to June? This reminds me a little bit of when Switch 2 was about to come out, and the tariffs were ongoing, and Nintendo just kind of paused and was quiet. And then they finally spoke, and all remained stable. But how long can you keep that stable? If Nintendo can keep it stable, it makes sense. But can Valve do that? We'll see.